comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. Lending a hand. You are flying high over the zone with me, Ralph Tyko, and I'm in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco. I'm thrilled with this episode. We're going to talk Atlanta Braves and even a little Milwaukee Braves with an author of a terrific book, 14 Flags. His name is Dan Schlossberg. And if I didn't pronounce that right now, we're going to take two on this whole thing. Dan, did I do all right?
You did. Most people call me Don instead of Dan. You were fine.
Thank God. Thank God. With us, too, today is Wayne Unger, whose name I can pronounce, only because it has less than 3 syllables. I was a Tikachinsky. They had to change it when I was in kindergarten, or I'd still be in kindergarten. Let me tell you what a thrill this is for me. You're an Atlanta Brave fan, Atlanta Brave journalist, but before that you were a Milwaukee Brave fan, and
big time.
That's what makes
big time.
That's what makes it great. And we want to talk to you. How did your book come about? In other words, what put it together in your head?
Nobody had ever written about the Braves' 14-year title run from 1991 to 2005. And I thought that was a real void in baseball literature because that streak is probably the team equivalent of Cal Ripken's consecutive games playing streak. It's pretty important, and it was just ignored. No professional sports team anywhere has come close to doing that. And I felt there needed to be a book on the subject. And being a Braves fan, it was near and dear to my heart.
Appreciate that. I'll ask a tough question first, and I'll let Wayne ask you a few. How come there was just one championship?
I get asked that a lot. It makes me crazy every time I hear the question. Because people that ask that question don't really... Well, people just don't really understand that every year is different. When you have 1,400 playoff rounds before you get to the World Series, the odds are great that the best team won't even make it to the World Series. You can look at very recent history, 2014. That World Series did not have a championship team in it. It had 2 wild cards. To me, that is a World Series that should be voided, defunct, kaput, eliminated. If you're not a championship team over 152 games, you're a tuna fish sandwich. You're not worth anything. The hell with the wild cards. It's a bad idea. 2 wild cards is a worse idea. And the Atlanta Braves to win 14 years in a row and superiority over 162 games and to have 6 100-win seasons and to have all those Hall of Famers, nobody beats that.
Nobody does on that level. And when you say... I agreed with you in terms of the wild card, the entire wild card situation, until it got to be to the point where there's 30 teams. You can't just close off the races like that and expect to maintain interest in baseball throughout the year. What do you say to that?
Exactly. Well, you know, you look back. In fact, look at my book. Look at the chapter on 1993. That was the last great title chase. That was before the extra rounds of the playoffs. We still had 1 round, championship series, but there were no division series. There was no wild card. That was the year the Braves and Giants went right down to the last day of the season. The Giants won 103 games and went home for the winter. That was a pennant race. We don't have that anymore, thanks to baseball's money grab, and that's all it is. It's a revenue gimmick, revenue-raising gimmick, just because the players' salaries got so out of hand and the owners got greedy. So this is what we have in baseball today.
But on some levels, again, because there are 30 teams, it serves an overall majority of the fans, not necessarily the teams that are, contenders year after year, but, again, wild card. Wayne, what do you say?
You know what? Honestly, it's a mixed bag, but the fact that we have 30 teams, it keeps the interest. It does keep the interest, and if the game didn't make money, then the economic boom in baseball has also spurred interest over the years. Think about it. Think about at the beginning of free agency, that was the start, and more people became interested, particularly the teams. Like a team that is mired, in the bottom rung of the standings. They don't need, you don't need 5 years, 6 years anymore, to turn a team around with free agency. So that increased interest. I understand, where it's hard for purists, and on some levels I am, and on some levels I'm open-minded to it. But I think overall, it's probably because there's 30 teams, it's a positive thing. Do we need 30 teams? That's another story. But that's a different discussion for a different day.
I'll tell you why I disagree with both of you guys. Because if you have teams in a race, let's get back to the 93 race, Braves and Giants, that would have been totally destroyed if the wild card existed, because both teams wouldn't know that they'd make the playoffs. And there would be no interest in those cities. That's what makes baseball great, and that's what made it great for over 100 years before they dreamed up divisional play and the wild card. And that's where I stand.
You can go back to what cheapens the game, and you can go back to expansion in 1961 and say taking it from 16 teams on up. So
you can argue that. There's so many.
Like Wayne says, it's a mixed bag. How many for that 93 race? And believe me, I'm not a Giant fan. I'm a Giant apologist at this point in my life. I live out here. I love that 93 team. That was a great team and a great race. But how many other races, even for the division, if you include exciting 2 out of 3 game playoffs, even the 1 game playoffs, you got to give it. There's excitement there. How much other excitement was generated because of divisional play? I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, well, you can make that argument, but it also cheapens the game because there's too much going on with these races and too many rounds of playoffs. And I think that's why the ratings, TV ratings, the All-Star Game TV rating we just had was the lowest of all time, the worst rating we've ever had for an All-Star Game. And the World Series is headed in that direction too, with bad ratings, because by the time you get there, people are bored with the playoffs. It's too much. Not to mention all the injuries pitchers had because of it.
And not to mention, nobody wanted to see those uniforms.
That too. Well, the Arizona Diamondbacks, give me a break. That was awful. And the uniform, the warm-up uniforms they wore at the All-Star Game with the mustard, where are the hot dogs to go with it?
Those are the ones that I was talking about. Those the old San Diego uniforms, and it's played in San. I understand all that. That's cool. But speaking of uniforms, if you had to come down to 5 uniforms, you say the Yankees, you say the Cardinals, but you can't leave out the Braves.
Yeah, the Tomahawks. Got to put that in there.
Tomahawk. It's a classic uniform. Yet they went away from it for a while, and they even have throwback days to the days that they went away from it, which is amazing to me. Just to sell uniforms and to sell accessories, and so it has become a business, and that's all part of it, and we're accepting. Let's talk about some of the key figures in that dynasty, if you will. Do you refer to it as a dynasty in your own head?
No question. Definitely was. Okay. No other team in pro sports has ever done it, so that makes it a dynasty.
Okay. I can't argue with that one bit. All starts at the top. Anything about Ted Turner that you care to pass on that we might be interested in? Because he was an enigmatic character, is probably to this day. Throw in the Jane Fonda trip down the road, and the fact that he managed a game for the Atlanta Braves. Let's start with that.
He did manage for a day before Commissioner Bowie Kuhn told him he couldn't do that anymore because an owner can't be a manager. That's a baseball rule enacted after Connie Mack did that. But Ted Turner, I wish he would not have sold the Braves, because ever since he sold the team, they've been scrounging for money and scrapping for money. When John Schuerholz was general manager of the team throughout this 14-year title run, he had to make some trades that were very uncomfortable and unpleasant because he needed the money to be able to keep Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, and John Smoltz from pursuing free agency. And so they made a lot of trades. They traded away guys like David Justice and Jermaine Dye and Kevin Millwood and a whole bunch of other people because they need the money to sign the pitchers. Fortunately, it worked out because, as you know, all three of those pitchers are in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And, in fact, they're the only trio of pitchers in the same rotation together more than a decade to make Cooperstown.
Wow. Interesting stat. Wayne?
I wasn't sure I was going to make it today. And I said to Ralph, I don't forget to ask this question. Now we're going to go back to the Milwaukee era. Okay? Ed Matthews. Why does he not get the historical love and recognition that he deserves?
Eddie Matthews? The only man to play for the team? The only man to play for the team in Boston, Milwaukee, and Atlanta. The only man to play for, coach, and manage the team. Hit over 500 home runs. Teamed with Hank Aaron in a record that is the most overlooked record in baseball history. The most home runs hit during the time they were teammates. 863. That is the most. It beats Ruth and Gehrig. It beats Mason McCovey. Beats Snyder and Hodges. Anybody you can name, that duo was the most prolific duo in baseball history. And that record really needs to be exploited, not ignored.
Oh, listen, I'm not arguing with you. I myself, like I say, I've always been puzzled over the years. Now, I didn't really start following baseball in '61, and I'll never forget coming across Eddie Matthews' card, and I was like, looked on the back, I was like, wow, this guy is awesome. Okay, and I could just never understand over the years. I mean, listen, yes, you can make an argument for a Mike Schmidt or a George Brett, but like when people talk about other historically good third basemen, he just gets so ignored. I think the next name that comes up after him is always Brooks Robinson, and then you get guys like Nettles and Boyer and Bando. It's like I say, it's just to me he's you can argue that he was the best third baseman of all time. So that's why I asked the question. Myself, I'm puzzled. Nonetheless,
well, he was overshadowed too by Hank Aaron and Warren Spahn being on the same team. That happens. Look at a guy like Gil Hodges. Gil Hodges should be in the Hall of Fame. He had the most RBIs of anybody in the 50s. But he was on that Brooklyn team that had so many other stars, Jackie Robinson, Duke Snider, and so many more. And that's probably why Gil Hines doesn't get the recognition he deserves.
He definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. We've done many shows over the years on just that, and it's a shanda that he isn't. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Dale Murphy, too. Got to get that name in there. Dale Murphy is number 1 on my list of players overlooked for the Hall of Fame.
Well, boy, that's an argument, too, as is other people like Veda Pinson, Dick Allen. I mean, but where do you
Tony
draw
Oliva?
It's almost, you have to draw the line somewhere.
Right, and how about Lou Burdett, just on what he did in the 57 series, and then still won over 200 games and formed the best left-right tandem in baseball history with Warren Spahn.
Saliva Lou was Lewis or Lou? How do you say it? Did he spell his name L-E-W or L-O-U? That's my question to you.
It's L-E-W.
Yeah, it's supposed to be L-E-W, but his card always said L-O-U for some reason, but who knows? I guess it got some saliva on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
but
for Burdett, back then the litmus test was really 300 games, 280, 300 victories, 280 victories, because that was a time when starting pitchers pitched, and they took a turn every 4th day, and every 5th day. I mean, you had 4-man rotations, and so 20 game winners were a lot more commonplace. So I think that's probably why he didn't get into the Hall of Fame. But,
well, you can make all kinds of arguments, but look at Don Drysdale, who was a contemporary. He won only 209. He's in the Hall of Fame. Good Burdett isn't. That's not right.
Good point. Sometimes the press, where you are, they were always talk about New York press, how powerful they were, and I'm sure L.A. press. The thing with Koufax and all that has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
Yeah, so let me ask you, is there, and I ask every time I have an author on, I ask this question, and I just want to know, is there anything that you wrote that you wish didn't come out the way it came out? And conversely, is there anything that you didn't write that you wish you'd have put in, or are you totally satisfied with the whole trip?
Totally satisfied with the whole trip. All I do is write baseball and write travel and do some broadcasting. And if I put my name on a project, I'm pleased with that project.
That's a great answer. That's beautiful. Tell me about your traveling. What is that domestic, or do you go all over the world?
Primarily North America. I am travel editor of a number of publications and radio stations. I do some work for Sirius XM, New Jersey Lifestyle Magazine. But primarily I'm writing baseball books. I've got this book to promote, When the Braves Ruled the Diamond. And I'm working on another book for next year called The New Baseball Bible. So I'm right in the process of promoting one while working on another.
What's your favorite book of all time that you wrote that we may not have heard of?
Oh, you probably have heard of it, though. That's maybe the 300 Club. I wrote a book several years ago about pitchers who won 300 games and interviewed all of the 10 living 300-game winners, researched the other 14, and really enjoyed putting that together. It was a lot of fun. And some of the guys I expected would be difficult interviews turned out to be really easy, good interviews, like Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson. They were terrific.
Right.
So,
Randy Johnson from Livermore. He lives right out this way in Northern California. Did you get out here to interview him, or?
No, that was one of the few I did by phone. I did quite a few of them in person, like Tom Seaver in person, but I did quite a few also by phone.
Another man from Northern California owns a winery, Tom Seaver.
Fresno, that's right.
Yeah, Fresno originally, of course. Yeah, absolutely. You have a blessed life, don't you? You enjoy it.
Pretty much. I do. But when you're a freelance writer and you work at home, there are so many different demands on your time. not even talking about the robocallers that interrupt you 100 times a day, but just family things, all kinds of distractions. Friends think you work at home so you can go out to lunch and just party all the time. Can't be done. You got to have some discipline. And that's the secret to getting books done. Got to have discipline.
So do you make an appointment with yourself to write from X number of hours to X number of hours, or do you
never do that? Never do that. I use every waking minute to write, often early in the morning or late at night when the phone is not ringing. That's really the best time, and it really helps. And I have editors who are very understanding and cooperative. And with this book I'm working on now, which used to be called The Baseball Catalog, it was a Book of the Month Club alternate. That book, I have to get all the picture permissions as well as put everything together.
It's a light blue covered soft paperback.
That's right. The most recent edition was called the Baseball Almanac, but previously had been called the Baseball Catalog with a yellow cover. I don't know what the new cover is going to be. I haven't seen it yet. But that's the book, and has not been updated in 15 years, so you can imagine how much work is involved in the update.
Absolutely, and those are some terrific pictures. I've got that in my library somewhere. And
thank you. Wait till you see what's coming now. It's even more dramatic. I have a lot of baseball cartoons and illustrations never published anywhere else. So I think you're really going to enjoy the update when it comes out next March.
Nice.
Ralph, I don't know. Ralph, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Dan actually did Designated Hebrew with Ron Bloomberg, who we had
that was fun.
Who we had as a guest. What a charming guy. Very bright. Didn't realize at the time you did that book. So you understand why I was.
Do you know how that title originated? I don't know if Ron told you, but that title originated because Dick Schaap once said to him, "Hey Ron, what was it like to be the first DH?" And he goes, "What do you mean? Designated Hebrew?" And Dick Schaap said, "That's a book."
Dick Schaap, may you rest in peace.
That's right.
Terrific guy. He gave us basically Sport Magazine. He edited Sport Magazine, and how much growing up did we get? Before him, there was people like Arnold Haino, and
he was at the All-Star game. Arnold Haino was at the All-Star game in San Diego.
I did an interview with Arnold a while back. It was one of the highlights of my fledgling life. He still has every bit. He's in his 90s, and he has every bit of it. Seichel, brains, togetherness.
Yes, that's right.
That he ever had. It's terrific to see that. As we're getting up there, and we want to get up there the same way he gets up there. Nice. Please come back. Unless there's anything, Wayne, do you want to talk about that I'm getting?
Let me ask you. It's always hard to pick one if you're a fan of the team, but just give me your 5 favorite Braves of all time.
Hank Aaron,
your personal
obviously. Personal favorites or favorites as players, they do differ. They're different.
No,
so,
personal favorites. Your personal favorites. Top 5.
Okay. All right. These are people I have met. Phil Niekro, Tom Glavine, Dale Murphy. These are not in any particular sequence, but these are guys who have been really friendly to me. Phil Niekro, Tom Glavine, Dale Murphy, Bobby Cox, who wrote the foreword in my book, by the way, when the Braves rolled the diamond. Mm-hmm. And one more I've got to pick. Gee, that's a little harder picking that last one. Tough choice there.
Can you tell me
maybe
about
Warren Spahn, because I did meet Warren Spahn. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Leo Mazzoni was great. He's been great to me all along, so he was fabulous.
Okay. Anything about him personally, why he succeeded so well with those 3 guys?
He succeeded so well with a bunch of guys. In fact, a bunch of guys they rescued from other teams when they were on the junk heap. The Braves resurrected their careers. Russ Ortiz, Mike Hampton, John Thompson. They're all in the book. All of those guys that the Braves salvaged. Jared Wright was another one. And Leo Mazzoni had his own theories, pitching twice between starts, for example, and he said if you throw more often, you'll have less injuries. And apparently that worked because he, and Bobby Cox and John Smoltz were the only men to wear Braves uniforms throughout that 14-year title run. And Mazzoni's theories were magic.
Wow. Real quick, I got to ask you, remember they won in 57?
Yes.
By 58, I was collecting Brave cards. The Giants left, and I'm good. They were greenback cards. I was a kid at Tinning Camp, and the colors were green. So for some reason, I was drawn to that team. Let's go over that team for a second. I think it could be the 58 Braves could be as good a baseball team. You talk about the Dodgers in those days. The Giants had a team or two that were great. 58 Braves. Pafko and Covington in left. Billy Bruton. Aaron in right. You had Bob Hazel coming off the bench in a miracle situation. I think that was 57.
Right, that was 1957. That was 1 year earlier. He didn't last in 58.
Right. But Shane Dingstead second, Mantilla off the bench, Logan at short. Mantilla didn't play very well as a regular with the Mets, but he was a good utility infielder.
And he also threw away the pennant in the 59 playoffs, if you remember. His error allowed the Dodgers to win that last game.
The 59.
Joe Hodges scored the winning run on Mantilla's throwing error in the 12th inning. 59 playoffs, second game.
So that was the sign of things to come with the Mets. But the Braves did give us Ron Hunt, who was our first.
And Frank Thomas. Frank Thomas, the first Frank Thomas you had. He hit 34 home runs for that 62 Mets team.
You're absolutely 34, I think it was. 34 home runs, you're right.
Yeah, 34 home runs.
But Hunt, the next year, was the first legitimate All-Star on the Mets. Ashburn was an All-Star the first year, but Ron Hunt the second year. But that team's catching staff of Del Crandall, Del Rice, and Carl Sawatsky, I think they had.
Stan Lopata, I think, was there too.
Stan Lopata for a while. Bob Taylor was coming up, if I remember. Hawk Taylor. They were so deep. And and again, first base, Adcock and Frank Torrey, Joe's older brother.
Right, Matthews the third.
Right. Arguably the best team I've ever seen. Arguably, of course. It all is, and that's what makes it great. It's all so subjective. You have to agree to that.
You look at the 96 Braves, though, which should have won the World Series. That was a powerful team. And the 95 Braves won their division by 21 games. That was the biggest margin they ever had. So that team was pretty strong, too.
Right. And you bring to light, when you talk about those 57, 58 teams, the rivalry with the Yankees, the World Series rivalry, and Casey saying things like, we're going to the Sticks to play the Braves. It became,
Bushville.
And Bushville, right. That's what it was. And Kubek, Tony Kubek, their shortstop, rookie in 57, was a Milwaukeeite, which really made
Right, that's right. He was embarrassed. Yeah.
Right, exactly. A small-town kid playing in New York for the first time, and here's the World Series, and Casey calling where he comes from, Bushville. I always thought that was one of the most interesting stories in baseball, in the history of baseball. One of the reasons I'm glad you're here today. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, Ralph, and also Wayne. Nice talking with you guys. Had a great time.
Well, then,
same here, Dan. Thank you for coming
tell
on.
Ira Silverstein, thank you for bringing us together. He's terrific.
Okay. I will tell him that. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. And don't forget, when the Braves rule the Diamonds, 14 flags over Atlanta. You can get it anywhere. Amazon.com.
Anywhere. Amazon and bookstores. Thrilled to have you.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Take
care.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to end the show the way I do generally. I'm just going to tell everybody to keep on keeping on. Wayne, thank you for being here. Dana, especially. We'll catch you next time. Adios,
okay,
everybody.
Ralph. Bye-bye.
You had fun?